Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Yaka Digital Network. You know we love to go deep on all sorts of topics here, and today we're taking a deep dive into a book that's all about you.
About you? What about me?
Well, about all of us, really.
Oh, okay.
It's all about finding and using your inner power, and it's called Within You is the Power by Henry Thomas Hamblin.
This book is amazing.
Yeah.
It's packed with all sorts of insights on how to actually make some positive changes and overcome challenges.
So like real practical advice, not just vague, inspirational stuff.
Exactly.
I like it. So let's jump in, shall we?
Let's do it.
Okay, so first up is this whole idea of infinite power within.
Sounds kind of mystical, doesn't it?
Yeah, a little bit, to be honest.
But don't let that throw you off. What Hamlin is getting at is, well, we all have this untapped potential.
Untapped potential. You mean like superpowers?
Sort of. It's the spiritual power that goes way beyond what we normally think we're capable of.
Interesting.
And get this. He says it's all connected to something even bigger than ourselves. Like a universal force that flows through everything.
Whoa, hold on.
What?
That's a lot to take in,
Yeah, it's a big concept.
but I kind of get it.
You do?
Yeah, it reminds me of that analogy he uses, the powerhouse.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. It's like we're all connected to this source of energy, but our thoughts can act like a switch.
Flipping it on or off, right?
Right, so we can either tap into that power or block it with our thoughts.
Kind of like choosing to open or close a circuit.
Precisely. So simple, yet so powerful.
Okay, I'm starting to see how this infinite power within could be a game changer.
It really can be.
But how does it actually apply to the challenges we face in life? You know, the everyday struggles.
Ah, good question.
Because let's be real, life can be tough sometimes.
It sure can.
So how does this whole power thing help us deal with that?
Okay, so here's where things get even more interesting.
Oh,
Hamblin says difficulties aren't punishments, but opportunities
opportunities for what?
for growth. He sees them like tests, that help us become wiser and stronger.
That's a different way of looking at it.
It is, isn't it?
Instead of being like, why me? It's more like, okay, what can I learn from this?
Exactly. And he even talks about big fate.
Big fate. What's that?
Those unavoidable things that happen to everyone, like birth, death, those kinds of things.
Ah, I see.
And he says how we react to those events, well, it shapes who we become.
It's like we have a choice, even when faced with things we can't control.
Precisely. Instead of seeing ourselves as victims, we can recognize our own agency, our power to choose.
I like that.
Yeah, it's empowering. We can let challenges break us, or we can rise above them. It's our call.
But wait, he's not saying we should go looking for a life of constant struggle, is he?
No, not at all. He's actually rejecting this whole idea of seeking an easy life.
Okay, good, because that doesn't sound very fun.
No, it doesn't. He's all about developing inner strength, the kind that lets you handle whatever comes your way.
Like building resilience?
Exactly. That's what makes life truly feel easy, not the absence of challenges, but the inner resources to meet them head on.
That makes a lot of sense.
It does, doesn't it?
So it's not about avoiding challenges, but about equipping ourselves to deal with them.
That's it. And this actually brings up a classic debate.
What a debate.
Fate versus free will.
Ooh, that's a big one. So where does Hamblin stand on that?
Well, he's got a nuanced take on it, which I appreciate.
Nuance is good.
Right. So he acknowledges that, yeah, we're initially influenced by things like our past actions.
Okay, makes sense.
And even things like planetary alignment.
Planetary, what?
Alignments, like the position of the stars and planets at the time of your birth.
Oh, astrology stuff.
Sort of. He's not saying you need to be a full-on astrologer.
Right.
But that those things are part of our initial fate, so to speak.
Okay, I'm following.
But here's the cool part.
Right.
He says, as we evolve, become more aware, and start making conscious choices, we actually gain more free will.
So it's not like we're just puppets on strings, totally controlled by outside forces.
Definitely not. We have the power to choose how we respond to situations, and those choices, well, they shape our future.
So it's a dance between fate and free will.
Exactly. And the more conscious we become, the more we get to lead the dance.
I like that.
Yeah.
So it sounds like personal responsibility is a major theme in this book.
Absolutely. Hamlin is all about owning your choices and their consequences.
It's that whole you reap what you sow thing, right?
Exactly. It's kind of like karma. What you put out into the world comes back to you.
So understanding that empowers us to make choices that create a better future.
Not just for ourselves, but for everyone around us, too.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that ripple effect, how our actions impact the whole.
It all comes back to choices.
Choices.
What kind of future are your choices creating right now? It's a good question to ponder, wouldn't you say?
It is. It's a lot to think about, but in a good way.
I think so too. It's exciting, isn't it?
It is. Okay, so let's shift gears a bit and talk about success.
Success. Ah, yes. Everyone wants that.
They do. But how does Hamblin define true success?
Well, for him, it's not just about the usual stuff, money and fame.
Thank goodness.
Mm.
Because those things don't always bring happiness.
Exactly. He's talking about achieving something meaningful,
Meaningful, huh? Like how?
something that benefits the world, something that builds your character,
So it's about making a positive impact.
and becoming a better person along the way.
I love that.
Yeah.
He's really contrasting this with the typical ideas of success.
He is. That whole money and status thing?
Yeah.
He's highlighting things like service, strong character, and resisting those temptations that come with power.
Ooh, temptations.
Yeah, the things that can easily lead us astray.
It's easy to get caught up in that stuff.
It is. And he makes this really interesting point about how people can actually become hard in the pursuit of material success.
Hard. Like, what do you mean?
Like they lose their humanity in the process.
Ah, I see what you mean.
It's like achieving outward success, but sacrificing your inner self.
That's a bad trade-off.
It is. And it's definitely not true success.
So true success is about aligning our inner and outer worlds.
Exactly. And Hamblin also talks about the connection between our mental and spiritual well-being and our physical health.
Really? How so?
Well, it's fascinating how he talks about breaking free from this hypnotic spell.
Hypnotic spell. What does that mean?
He's referring to negative thinking and fear, the things that can really hold us back.
Ah, right. Those things.
And he even calls the idea of disease being inevitable an illusion.
Oh, hold on. So he's saying we don't have to get sick.
He's not saying that we'll never experience illness, but that we can greatly influence our health by aligning ourselves with what he calls the divine ideal.
The divine ideal. What's that?
He's talking about wholeness and perfection, aligning with our true nature.
Oh, I'm with you.
And he suggests we can do this through right thinking and right living.
So like positive thinking and healthy habits.
Exactly. And he uses this really striking example of an insane person who experiences incredible health.
Wait, really?
Once they're no longer consumed by worry and anxiety.
It's like their body is finally free to heal itself.
Precisely. And this all connects back to the power of the subconscious mind, which we'll get into more later.
The subconscious mind. That sounds intriguing.
It is. It plays a huge role in how our thoughts affect our well-being, both physically and mentally.
I'm starting to see how all these pieces fit together.
They do. Hamblin really weaves together these different aspects of ourselves to show how we can live more fulfilling and empowered lives.
It's like a holistic approach.
It is. It's about recognizing that we're not just separate parts, but an integrated whole.
I like that.
It's a powerful way to view ourselves and our potential.
Okay, so speaking of the subconscious mind, let's talk about abundance and prosperity.
Ah, yes. Everyone wants to know about that.
They do, but Hamblin's take on it is pretty unique, isn't it?
It is. He's really clear that true prosperity comes from a spiritual source, not just material wealth.
So it's not just about working hard and making money.
That's a part of it, but there's more to it.
More to it, huh?
Yeah, he's talking about cultivating this consciousness of abundance.
Consciousness of abundance.
It's like believing that there's enough for everyone and trusting that the universe will provide.
That sounds kind of like faith.
It does. It's about aligning yourself with that energy of abundance.
But it's not about being passive either, right? You can't just sit back and expect things to fall into your lap.
No, definitely not. He's still a big believer in taking action, being practical, and working hard.
That makes sense.
It's about combining the inner and outer,
Aligning your beliefs with your actions.
Precisely. And I thought it was really interesting how he connects both poverty and hoarding to a misunderstanding of this whole supply thing.
Oh, yeah, that was fascinating.
Both extremes are coming from a place of fear and lack of trust in the universe's abundance.
It's like two sides of the same coin.
Exactly. One is clinging too tightly and the other is not believing there's enough to go around.
And both lead to unhappiness, in a way.
They do. It's about finding that balance, that sweet spot, where you trust in the abundance, but also take practical steps to create what you want.
So it's not about denying the material world, but about seeing it as a reflection of our inner state.
That's a great way to put it. And Hamblin doesn't just talk about the spiritual side of abundance.
He doesn't. Nope.
He also gives some very practical business advice.
What?
Like saving money and living within your means.
Okay, that's good advice for anyone, really.
It is. It shows how he balances those inner and outer aspects of life.
Right. He's not advocating some kind of spiritual bypassing where you just meditate on abundance and ignore practical matters.
No, not at all. He recognizes that action is important, but that it needs to be guided by the right mindset.
It's like setting the intention and then taking the steps to make it happen.
Precisely. And that's a powerful combination for creating the life you want.
All right, so now let's delve into the powers and limitations of this thing called the subconscious mind.
This is where it gets really juicy.
I know, I'm excited. Hamlin calls it the mind of nature, which sounds pretty intense.
It is intense. He explains that it has this incredible power and intelligence.
Okay, but it's not like a mystical god or something, right?
No, not quite. He describes it more as a force of nature, something we can learn to work with.
That makes sense.
It's like we need to understand its laws and principles in order to harness its power.
So how do we do that? How do we work with this subconscious mind?
Well, he uses the example of forming habits, like driving or playing an instrument.
Okay, I can see that.
Once you've done something enough times, it becomes automatic.
Your subconscious takes over.
Exactly. It's like you've programmed it to do those things without you even having to think about it consciously.
That's pretty amazing when you think about it.
It is. And Hamlin suggests that we can even train our subconscious to solve problems, come up with new ideas, and achieve goals.
Wait, really? That's wild.
I know. It's like having this incredibly efficient personal assistant working behind the scenes.
So we can actually give it instructions.
Exactly. He tells this great story about Henry Ford.
Oh, the car guy?
Yeah. He would basically delegate problems to his subconscious mind to figure out.
And it worked.
It did. Ford claimed that many of his breakthroughs and inventions came from tapping into this power of his subconscious.
Maybe we should all be doing that more often.
It's worth exploring, for sure. It really shows the potential of the subconscious when we learn how to use it effectively.
So it's like a powerful tool that needs to be used wisely and directed in the right way.
Exactly. It's up to us to give it the guidance and direction it needs to create the results we want.
But as you said, it does have its limitations.
Right. It does. It's not a source of divine wisdom on its own.
What do you mean?
Well, it needs information from us, clear instructions in order to work its magic.
So we can't just expect it to magically solve all our problems without any effort on our part.
Definitely not. It's more like we need to set the intention, feed it the right information, and then trust it to do its thing.
Okay, I'm getting it.
Good. It's a collaborative process.
Now, let's move on to the superconscious mind. This is where things get even more mysterious.
It's true. It takes us into a different realm.
A different realm, huh?
Yeah. Hamlin describes the superconscious mind as the source of inspiration, illumination, and true wisdom.
Whoa, that sounds pretty profound.
It is. He's talking about a connection to something much bigger than ourselves, something transcendent.
Like tapping into a higher reality.
Exactly. It goes beyond what we can perceive with our physical senses.
Trying to wrap my head around this.
It's a big concept, but he suggests that we can access this higher mind through things like self-discipline and spiritual practices.
So it's not something that just happens automatically.
Not necessarily. It takes effort and intention to cultivate that connection.
It makes you wonder what incredible insights and breakthroughs are possible when we reach that level of awareness.
Doesn't it? It's mind-blowing to think about. What if we could tap into that wisdom consistently? It could change everything.
It really could. So with all this talk about power and tapping into our higher potential, it makes you wonder about the potential for misuse. Right?
Oh, absolutely. That's a crucial point. And Hamlin doesn't shy away from it.
He doesn't?
Nope. He's very clear that using this power for selfish gain, to force your will on others, or just to get rich, well, it goes against universal laws and ultimately backfires.
So it's not about becoming some kind of supervillain who bends the world to their will.
No, definitely not. It's about aligning yourself with what's truly good for everyone, not just what your ego wants.
That makes sense.
Right. He specifically warns against using spiritual power to try and create wealth or material possessions.
He does.
Yeah. He even references the story of Jesus being tempted in the desert. Remember that one?
Yeah, where he was asked to turn stones into bread.
Exactly. Hamlin argues that true prosperity comes from a spiritual source, not from trying to manipulate the material world.
So those who try to use their power to force wealth or success, they're actually going down a dangerous path.
They are. It's like taking a shortcut that leads to a dead end.
A spiritual dead end.
Exactly. It might seem appealing in the short term, but the long-term consequences can be pretty bad.
So it's not about personal gain, but about something bigger?
Exactly. It's about recognizing that we're all interconnected and our actions have a ripple effect.
That whole butterfly effect thing.
Yes. When we use our power for good, we contribute to the well-being of everyone, not just ourselves.
That's a beautiful thought.
It is. And it all ties back into personal responsibility, doesn't it?
It does. We have a responsibility to use our power wisely and ethically.
And that responsibility becomes even greater as we become more aware of our potential.
It's like the more power we have, the more careful we need to be with it.
Absolutely. It's not something to be taken lightly.
But it's also inspiring, isn't it?
Yeah.
Knowing that we have this capacity to make a real difference.
It is. That's what Hamblin's message is all about, recognizing our own power and using it to create a better world for ourselves and for future generations.
Powerful stuff. Now, in the last part of the book, Hamblin offers some practical advice on how to actually overcome our limitations and awaken these inner powers.
Yeah, he gets down to brass tacks.
He does. So what's the key? What's the secret sauce?
Well, he stresses that it's not just about mental effort, but also about aligning ourselves with what he calls truth.
Truth with a capital T. What does that mean?
He is talking about a deeper spiritual reality that underlies everything we see in the world.
That sounds pretty abstract.
It is, but he's essentially talking about connecting with the divine essence that flows through all of creation.
Okay, I think I'm starting to get it.
Good. It's like recognizing that there's this underlying order to the universe, this intelligence that permeates everything.
And by aligning ourselves with that, we tap into a greater power.
Exactly. So it's more than just positive thinking. It's about connecting with something much larger than ourselves.
It's about recognizing that we're not just isolated individuals, but part of something much bigger and more interconnected.
Exactly. And that recognition can be incredibly liberating, don't you think?
It can. It frees us from the limitations of our ego and connects us to a source of unlimited power and possibility.
Absolutely. And that's ultimately what Hamblin is inviting us to do, to tap into that power and live lives of purpose, meaning, and joy.
Now, how do we actually do that? How do we align ourselves with this truth?
Well, one way he suggests is through right thinking.
What's right thinking?
It's about consciously transforming those negative thoughts into their positive opposites.
So it's not about denying negative thoughts, but about actively shifting them.
Precisely. He argues that our thoughts have a powerful influence on our reality, both internally and externally.
So by choosing to focus on positive, empowering thoughts, we can actually shift our experience and create a more harmonious life.
That's what he suggests. It's like we're alchemists, turning lead into gold.
I love that analogy. It really captures the essence of what he's talking about.
Doesn't it? It's about transforming those negative energies into something positive and life-affirming.
He also talks about the importance of consciously identifying with our true selves, with our spiritual essence.
He does. He emphasizes that we're not just our bodies, our minds, or even our personalities.
There's something more to us than that.
Much more. He's talking about that spark of the divine that resides within each of us.
Okay, that makes sense.
And he even suggests using affirmations to reinforce this awareness.
Affirmations, like what?
Like, I am a branch of the true vine, connecting ourselves back to that source.
It's like reminding ourselves of our true nature, our connection to something greater.
Exactly. It's about aligning our consciousness with that higher truth.
And that connection can give us a profound sense of security and power, can't it?
It absolutely can. It's like tapping into an endless wellspring of strength and wisdom.
But as we've discussed, this power must be used responsibly and ethically.
Absolutely. Hamblin is very clear about that. It's not about using it for selfish gain or to manipulate or control others.
So it's not about power over others, but power within ourselves.
Precisely. He says that true power comes from aligning with a higher purpose, not from trying to dominate or exploit others.
That's a really important distinction.
It is. It's about recognizing that true power comes from love, compassion, and service, not from egotism or self-aggrandizement.
It sounds like he's advocating a path of selflessness, not selfishness.
Exactly. And that's a path that leads to true fulfillment and lasting happiness.
So we've talked about this incredible power within, but how do we actually awaken it? How do we tap into that potential?
That's the million-dollar question, right? And luckily, Hamblin gives us some practical advice.
He does. Like what?
Well, he recommends setting aside time for quiet contemplation, for connecting with our inner selves.
So like meditation.
It could be meditation, prayer, spending time in nature, anything that helps you tune in and listen to that inner voice.
Okay, that makes sense.
And he also talks about self-discipline and perseverance.
Right, because it's not just going to happen overnight.
Exactly. He emphasizes that awakening these inner powers, it's not a quick fix.
It's a journey.
It is. It requires dedication and commitment, like developing a muscle.
You have to work at it consistently.
Precisely. And just like with physical exercise, the more we practice, the stronger we become.
So it's not about expecting some overnight transformation, but about taking those small, consistent steps in the right direction.
Exactly. And trusting that those small steps will eventually lead to a profound shift in our awareness and how we experience life.
A shift in awareness, huh? So it's not just about changing our circumstances, but about changing our perspective.
That's a big part of it. It's about seeing the world and ourselves in a new light.
It's about realizing our true potential.
And living a life of purpose and meaning.
That sounds pretty amazing, actually.
It is. It's a journey worth taking.
But Hamblin also cautions against getting too caught up in seeking mystical experiences or psychic powers.
He does. He argues that those things can be distractions.
Distractions from what?
From the real goal.
Which is
aligning with our spiritual essence and living in harmony with those universal laws we talked about.
So it's not about becoming some kind of psychic superhero.
Right. It's about developing our inner strength and wisdom.
It's about becoming the best versions of ourselves.
Exactly. And realizing that the true magic lies within us.
In our capacity for love, compassion, and service.
Beautifully said. That's the heart of Hamblin's message.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground today, from the infinite power within to right thinking, character building, and service.
We have. It's been quite a journey.
But there's one more piece of the puzzle I want to touch on before we wrap up.
Oh, and what's that?
It's that distinction Hamblin makes between happiness and joy.
Ah, yes. It's a crucial one.
It is. It's easy to mix those two up, but he sees them as very different.
He does. Happiness, he says, is fleeting.
Fleeting? What do you mean?
It comes and goes. It's dependent on external circumstances.
So it's like pleasure or excitement.
Exactly. Whereas joy is something deeper, it's lasting, and comes from within.
So true joy isn't about chasing pleasure or getting approval from other people.
Not at all. It's about cultivating a deep sense of peace and contentment that doesn't depend on what's happening around you.
It's about finding that unshakable joy within yourself.
Precisely. It's a state of being, not just a fleeting emotion.
He talks about finding joy in service, in conquering your own limitations, and ultimately in realizing our connection to something bigger than ourselves.
The divine.
Exactly. It sounds like a profound sense of fulfillment that comes from aligning with our true nature.
It is. It's like the culmination of all those efforts we've been talking about.
Tapping into our inner power, making conscious choices, serving others.
It all leads to this deeper experience of joy.
It's not just about achieving things in the world. It's about becoming the best version of yourself.
That's it. It's about inner transformation, not just external success.
Hamblin's message is so empowering.
It is.
It's like he's reminding us that we have everything we need within to live an amazing life.
We don't have to wait for things to change or for other people to give us permission.
We have the power to create the life we want.
To overcome any obstacle.
And to make a positive impact on the world.
It all starts with recognizing that power and choosing to use it wisely.
And that's a choice we make every single day.
It is. It's a continuous journey of growth and self-discovery.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into within you is the power, what's one key takeaway you'd like our listeners to remember?
I'd say the most important thing is to remember that you already have everything you need within you to live an extraordinary life.
You don't need to wait for things to be perfect.
Or for someone to tell you you're good enough.
You have the power to create the life you want, to overcome any challenge, and to make a positive impact on the world.
It all starts with recognizing that power and choosing to use it wisely.
That's a powerful message. Thank you so much for guiding us through Hamblin's work.
My pleasure. It's always exciting to explore these timeless ideas and remember that we all have the power to create a better future.
And to our listeners, thank you for joining us on this journey into the depths of human potential. We hope you found this deep dive into within you. Is the power informative, inspiring, and clear? And if you did, please share it with your friends, family, classmates, anyone you think might benefit from Hamblin's message.
You never know who you might inspire.
A new episode drops every day, so be sure to subscribe and follow the Yaka Digital Network to catch them all.
And if you want to dive deeper into this topic, check out www.yakae.cc books or WhatsApp us at +256 770 730170.
Until next time, may you tap into the infinite power within you and create a life of purpose, meaning, and joy.